Good evening, everyone. In the last session, we are trying to understand how to develop servlet application with JDBC logic. Now here, in our application, we are using HTML page. What is the purpose of HTML page? So here, HTML, we are using to develop user interface. We can also say that we are using HTML to develop presentation logic. So what is the meaning of presentation logic? What is the meaning of presentation logic? User interface. Whatever the logic that we are using to display to the user, that is called presentation logic. To develop presentation logic in our application, we are using HTML page. We are configuring that HTML page as index.html. Then after, we are using servlet program, or we can say we are using servlet class. What is the purpose of this servlet? First of all, what is a servlet? Servlet is a API which is used to develop web applications, right? User will enter the data in the HTML page and the user will click on submit button. So in the backend, some program should be available which will handle request as well as response. Now, servlet classes we are using to handle user request and response. When user click on submit button, we need to take the data from the form and we need to perform some operations on that data and we need to send some response to the user. So in our application, who is responsible to handle user request and response? Servlet. So here, HTML page we are using to develop presentation logic. User will enter some data in the form and the user will click on submit button. When user click on submit button, we need to capture that data from the form and we need to perform some operations on the data. And finally, we need to send some response to the user. For that, we are using servlet program. Then after, we are using JDBC. What is the purpose of this JDBC? What is the purpose of JDBC? JDBC we are using to communicate with a database. JDBC we are using to communicate with database. All right. Now here, can I write servlet code and JDBC code in the single class? Is it possible or not possible? Yes, it is possible. We can develop a servlet class. Inside that servlet class, we can write the JDBC logic also. But is that recommended or it is not recommended? It is not recommended. Why it is not recommended? Maintenance problem. Tomorrow, if I change the servlet logic, it may affect on the JDBC logic. If I change the JDBC logic, it may affect on the servlet logic. So that's why in the project development, we will divide servlet logic and JDBC logic into separate classes. Servlet class will be available, and for JDBC logic, we will create a DAO class. Now, technically, we can write JDBC logic inside the servlet. We can write JDBC logic inside servlet class. Inside servlet class, technically it is possible. The logic to handle the request, the logic to capture the data from the request, sending the response, everything will be available in the servlet. Inside that servlet, we can write our JDBC logic also. We can write JDBC logic inside servlet class, but it is not recommended. What is the recommended approach, guys? What is the recommended approach? Write the JDBC logic inside the separate class. So the class which contains the database communication logic, that class is called as DAO class. What is the meaning of DAO? Data access object. So right. So we should create DAO classes. We should create DAO class to write. We should write a DAO class to write JDBC logic. What is the full form of the DAO? What is the full form of DAO, guys? DAO stands for data access object. DAO stands for data access object. In a project, how many DAO classes we need to develop? how many DAO classes we need to develop in the project? For every table, we will create one DAO class. Don't write multiple multiple tables logic in single DAO. Tomorrow, if some problem available, easily we should be able to understand which class we need to check. For every table, one DAO class we have to create. That is the recommended approach. Now, in a table, I want to insert the data, update the data, delete the data, retrieve the data. These 4 CRUD operations are common. One table related CRUD operation logics should be available inside one DAO. Suppose we are working on a banking application, 1000 tables may available. Then you need to create 1000 classes. So every table will contain one DAO. Now, if your project is having 5000 tables, 5000 DAOs has to be created. Why? Because tomorrow it will be easy for us to understand how the code is executing. If there is any problem in the code, easily we can fix that problem also. DAO stands for data access object. For every table, one DAO class we have to create. Now, in our application, what are the components we are going to create? As we discussed, book data, we need to insert into database table. So book form will be available by using HTML. I will create one form by using index.html. This page contains a form logic. Form display logic will be available. Form display logic with a button. Form display logic will be available with a button. Then here, I will be creating one servlet which is used to handle form submission. Book servlet will be available to handle request and response. To handle request and response, I will create one book servlet class. So to write the database communication logic, I will be creating one class with a name called book DAO. Okay, to handle database operation. This class is responsible to handle DB operation. Now, here inside the DAO, we can write multiple methods. One method is used to insert the record, one method to update the record, one method to delete the record, one method to retrieve the record. Similarly, today we have book DAO. Tomorrow we may have student data, we may have employee data in the same project. So if you have 2 tables, 2 DAOs will be available. In every DAO, multiple methods will be available. Is it recommended to create physical connection for every method? Is it recommended to create physical connection for every method? It is not recommended. So then what we need to do? We need to go for a concept called connection pooling. Now, connection pooling logic I am going to write inside a separate class. I will create a class with a name called connection factory. I will create a class with a name called connection factory. So connection factory to handle connection pool. To handle connection pool, I will create connection factory. So now we need to develop a project by developing these 4 components, right? One index.html file to display form logic with a button. And whenever you submit that button, then my book servlet should execute. Book servlet is responsible to handle request and response. Then we need to have book DAO, which is used to handle DB operations. Basically, CRUD operations we are going to write inside the DAO. And connection factory will be available. This is responsible to handle connection pool in our project. Are you clear with this one? Did you create these classes in the project? Yes, perfect. Now, so diagrammatically, how they are going to represent. Here my form will be available. Here my servlet will be available. Here my DAO will be available. Here I'm going to take a connection factory to get the connection, and here my database will be available. So this is my HTML page which contains a form. I can say this is my HTML page, and this is my servlet class which is called as book servlet. Book servlet will be available. This is my book DAO class, and this is my database. This is my database. And what is this class? What is this class, guys? This class is called as connection factory. What is the responsibility of the connection factory? To provide the logical connections to our DAO classes. Now, inside this HTML, we will write the form logic. And here we are going to write do post method. Why not do get method? Why do post method? Why not do get? Why do post method? Here we are dealing with a form. Form data should go to the server in the body, not in the URL. If you go for get request, form data will go to server in the URL. It is not recommended to append the data to the URL while sending a request. That's why I will go for do post. Now, whenever you click submit button in the form, it will send a request to my servlet. So the data will go to servlet in the form of request object. For my servlet, a request object will come and my servlet will deal with one response object also. Who will send this request and response objects to our servlet? User will send that, programmer will send, or server will send that. Server is going to send the request object to my do post method, and response object also will be sent to my do post method. All right, request data, form data will go to servlet in the request object. My servlet can capture the data from the request. Can you tell me how to capture data from the request object? How to capture data from the request object? By using request.get parameter, we can capture request data. Then whatever the data that I captured in the request, that data I need to give to DAO. Inside the DAO, I will write one save method. Inside the DAO, I will write one save method. This method will contain the logic to insert the record into database. All right. So this servlet program should call my DAO method. My DAO method will get the connection from the connection factory. DAO method will get the connection from connection factory. Then this DAO, 1 minute. Here it is not data DAO. It is a database. It's my mistake, guys. Yeah. So it is a database. 1 minute. This is our database. Now, so here our DAO logic is going to communicate with the database. This is the application that we need to develop. So project means a collection of programs. We are just developing one single page to store the data, to store the page data into the database table, to store the form data into database table. How many programs we are developing? One connection factory class, one DAO class, one servlet class, one HTML page. Along with this, we are going to create one more class to transfer the data from one program to another program. We will talk about that today, right? First, let me complete this project and I will tell you what is the problem with this implementation and how we need to correct it as per industry standards. Are you clear? Any questions in this implementation? You got the clarity how to develop the project now. So what is the meaning of your project? Collection of programs is called as one project. Now, can I say this is one project? A simple project to store the book data into database table. User will interact with the HTML pages. User will communicate with the web pages. User will enter some data. User will submit button. User will click on submit button. Then request will go to my servlet. Who is sending request to servlet? Browser. User performing operation on the browser. Browser will capture the form data. Browser will prepare the request object. Browser will send the request object to server. Then server will create request object and response object will send it to my do post method. My servlet will capture the form data. My servlet will call the DAO method. DAO method will get the connection from the connection factory, will insert the record into database table. Are you getting my point? After inserting the record into database table, my servlet should send a response to the browser. Record inserted successfully. How to send the response from servlet to the browser? By using print writer. We have the response object. Using response object, we will get the print writer. Using that print writer, we can write the response to our browser. Are you guys clear? Perfect. Let me go and create this project now. Yeah. Yeah, if you want, you can note down this diagram. Just after that. Before notes, not required. Just you can take the diagram. The last one is requirement only, right? Yeah, you just, yeah, take this diagram. Above requirement can be implemented. We have to implement above requirement, or else we can say below is the design for below is the design for below is the design for implementing the given requirement. Below is the design below is the design below is the design to implement below is the design to implement above requirement. Below is the design to implement above requirement. Below is the design to implement above requirement. Below is the requirement to implement above requirement. Below is the design to implement above requirement. Guys, whenever you are working on a project, directly don't start the coding. First, you need to prepare the design. Okay, how many classes we need to create, how many methods we need to create, which method should talk to which method, which class should talk to which class. First, you have to prepare a plan. When you are going to construct a house, directly will you start constructing the walls? First, you need to prepare the design. What is the architecture of our house? So similarly, when you are developing a project also, first you need to prepare the architecture. How many components we need to develop in this project? How many pages are required? How many servlets are required? How many DAO classes are required? How many methods are required? Which method should talk to which method? Like this, you need to prepare a diagram. Once this diagram is clear, once the roadmap is clear, then we need to start the project creation, right? Why? You can implement that also. What happened? Even if you keep in the lib folder. We'll check that. Now we'll see that. We can configure that in the Tomcat server. Actually, I forgot to install the database here. We'll see that. Sorry, that is servlet lifecycle. I have not explained it. We will discuss that also. Servlet lifecycle. Init method, service method, destroy method will be there. Yes. Are you done with the diagram, guys? Yeah, perfect. Now let's go and create our project. Yes. So fine. Observe first. File, new. We need to create a dynamic web application. So I'm creating this as book project, right? So click on this one. Yeah. Click on next, next, web.xml file. Click on finish. So we have created this project. Project structure is created. Web app, webinf, lib, web.xml file is created. Welcome file list is also available. We are using index.html as a welcome file list. If your welcome file name is index.html, writing this is also optional. Even if you don't write it, by default, it will take index.html as a default welcome page. Perfect. Now, first here, once the project is created, I need to set the build path. Instead of adding the jar files to the build path, we can keep the jar files in the lib folder directly. So let me take my jars. So Hikari CP, MySQL connector, Servlet API, and SLF4j. 4 dependencies I need. I'm going to keep these jar files inside my project lib folder. What is the meaning of lib folder, guys? What is the purpose of lib? What is the lib? Lib is nothing but it will contain libraries of the project. Refresh. Now can you see all the jar files are added to lib folder? Yes. We can add it to the build path also, or we can keep in the lib folder. Keeping the jar files in the lib folder is recommended approach. All right. I have added the jar files to lib folder. Then I need to start the development. Always, guys, remember that development we need to start from back to front. We need to start from back to front. First, we don't create the HTML pages. Always we will come from the database. First, we need to create the table. Table should be ready. Once the table is ready, create the connection factory. Once connection factory is ready, create the DAO class. Once the DAO is ready, create the servlet. Once the servlet is ready, then create the HTML. So as a developer, always we need to start our work from database to front end. Some people will start from front end to back end, but that is not a good practice. We need to start from database to front end. All right. Now my project is created. In this project, lib files are also added. Then first I am going to create my connection factory class. All right. New class. So I'm going to create this inside a package in.ashokit.util. What is the meaning of util? Util means multiple classes uses this class, right? The classes which are using by multiple classes in the project, those classes are called as utility classes. Are you guys able to understand? Utility. Utility means several classes in the project are going to use this class. Suppose in my project, 100 DAOs will be available. 100 DAOs want to take the connection from the connection factory. So connection factory is utilizing by several DAO classes in the project. That's why I'm going to create that connection factory as a utility class. I'm keeping the package name as in.ashokit.util. Now let's give the class name connection factory. Don't write the class names as demo, test, employee, first class, second class. No, you need to write the classes with the proper naming convention. When some other programmer look at your project, they should understand what is the purpose of this class by looking at the name only. Now I am creating a class with a name called connection factory. So somebody who look at my class can understand what is the purpose of connection factory. Connection factory nothing but which will prepare the connections. That is the meaning of that. Now I want to create a connection by using connection factory. Hikari connection pool I want to use here. So for that, I'm going to write one method, public data source. Public data source, or directly we can give connection also. Public connection. I'm writing a method called get connection. I'm writing a method called get connection. Import the package. Connection is an interface available in java.sql package. I have created a method. What is the logic we need to write inside this method? What is the logic we need to write inside this method? We need to create the data source object. From the data source object, we need to create the connection. All right. First, we need to set Hikari config. Hikari config is equal to new Hikari config. Hikari config is equal to new Hikari config. What we need to set to this config? Config dot set username. Config dot set username. Config dot set password and config dot set JDBC URL. Config dot set JDBC URL. All right. So I'm setting username, password, and URL. So by using this, I need to create the data source object. So what is the data source object? Hikari data source. I need to get Hikari data source is equal to new Hikari data source. New Hikari data source of, I'm passing that config object. So whatever the config object we have created, that config object I'm passing as the input for Hikari data source. All right. Now I am going to get this ds is equal to, ds dot get connection. ds dot get connection. That connection object I will be storing into one variable con object. I'm going to use it as a con object. Then finally, I want to return that con object. I want to return that con object. All right. Now here, when my DAO class is calling the get connection, do I need to create the connection pool every time? Connection pool should be created only one time. But here, when I call get connection, every time connection pool will be created, or only one time the connection pool will be created? Only one time. I'm calling this method, man. If I call this method, what will happen? Every time it is going to create the connection pool. So is this recommended logic or it is not recommended? It is not recommended. Connection pool data source should be created only one time. But as per our method, if I call get connection first time, one data source object will be created. If I call get connection for second time, another data source object will be created. If I call get connection for third time, another data source object will be created. I don't want to create the data source object multiple times. Data source object should be created only one time. Can you tell me what changes I need to make for this class so that a data source will be created only one time? What I need to do? Come on, guys. Yes, first I need to take one static variable, private static data source. Private static data source ds is equal to null value. I'm taking a static variable because this method also I'm making as a static method. Now here I will remove this data source. Data source is equal to new data source. Now when this data source should be created? Now tell me, I created one static variable, data source ds is equal to null value. And I have a method. Inside that method, I'm making the configuration. Okay, let's assume that here some username and password will be available. Some username and password will be available. And we need to specify database URL. Is it recommended to hard code the URLs like this? Is it recommended to hard code the URLs like this? Username, password, should we hard code like this or we should not hard code like this? We should not hard code like this. Then how to deal with the data source properties? How we need to deal with the data source properties now? We need to create one file. What is that file? dbconfig.properties. We need to create one Java file, normal text file, properties file. Okay, so here I'm going to specify dbconfig.properties. dbconfig.properties. File, new file. Yeah. dbconfig.properties. Perfect. I have created this. I'm going to specify db.username is equal to some value. What is the advantage of going with the properties files? What is the advantage of going with the properties files, guys? So we are not going to hard code the values. Tomorrow, if my password is modified, I no need to touch my Java program. URL, that is JDBC colon. What is the URL for MySQL? JDBC colon MySQL colon localhost colon 3306 slash database name, that is Adv Java DB. So here we need to specify double slash. Okay. So database username, database password, database URL we are configuring here. Can you tell me how to read the properties from the properties file? Do you know how to read the properties from the properties file? Yes, come on. How to read it? First, I need to go for file input stream. File input stream FIS is equal to new file input stream of our file object. What is our file object? dbconfig.properties. dbconfig.properties. So I am loading the file by using this file input stream. I'm loading the file by using file input stream. File input stream FIS is equal to new file input stream. Now, whatever the properties are available in the properties file, I want to load into my Java class. So do you know how to load the properties into our Java class? Yes, there is a class called properties. Properties P is equal to new properties. Properties P is equal to new properties. Now, properties P is equal to new properties P dot load of file input stream. So file input stream is a class which is used to locate where our properties file is available. dbconfig.properties is our file name. Inside that file, the data is available in the form of key and value. Now I want to load the data from the properties file. I want to store into properties object. For that, first I am creating the properties class. Then I am using load method. What is the purpose of load method? To load the properties from the file into our Java program. Once they have loaded to Java program, how to get the each property? I want to get the value based on the key. It is a key and it is a value. I know the key name. How to get the value? I know the key name. How to get the value? Come on, guys. How to get the value? P dot get property. So what is the property name? db.url. Let me store that into a variable. That is URL. P dot get property of db.url. Then similarly, I need to get the username also. String username is equal to P dot get property. What is the key for the username? What is the key I configured in the properties file? db.username is the key. So I'm going to specify db.username. I'm specifying db.username. Then similarly, I want the password. How to get the password? P.get property of db.password. Am I hard coding the database properties, or I'm taking the database properties from the properties file? I'm taking the database properties from the properties file. So whatever the URL we are reading, can I set that URL here? Set JDBC URL. I'm giving the URL. Set password. Set username. I will set the username and I will set the password. All right. Now my class is loosely coupled with the database properties. Database properties are available in the properties file in the form of key and value. Connection factory should communicate with the database to get the connections. That's why I'm loading the data from the properties file. With that data, I'm creating my data source object. By using the data source object, I'm getting the connection. Are you clear? Now, let me go for one DAO class and let me show you the problem in the logic. Let me create one class. What is the class name? Book DAO. DAO classes I will create in the DAO package. I will use a separate package for them. If all the classes we don't keep in one package, guys, classes will be separated to multiple packages. Stringo class, scanner class, both are Java predefined classes only, right? Stringo class, scanner class, both are predefined. Both are available in the same package. Both are available in the different packages. Why scanner is available in the util package? Why string is available in the lang package? Modularity. they want to separate some set of classes into lang package. The language fundamental classes are available in the lang package. Utility classes are available in the util package. File classes are available in the IO package. Like that, Java language itself divide the classes into multiple packages. Similarly, when we are developing the classes in the project, we also need to develop the classes by dividing into multiple packages. All the DAO classes will be available in one package. All the servlet classes will be available in one package. Are you able to follow me? Now, so here I want to create a class with a name called book DAO. What is the responsibility of the book DAO? What is the responsibility of the book DAO? Insert the record into database table. Now to insert the record into database table, I'm writing one method, public boolean. What is the meaning of a boolean? True or false. If record is inserted successfully, this method will return true value. If record insertion is a failure, this method will return false value. Based on the information given by the DAO, we will send either success message or failure message to the user. If a record is inserted successfully, send a success message. If a record is not inserted successfully, send a failure message. How we will understand record is inserted or not inserted? Based on the return type of the method. My method will insert the record into database. My method should return some status back to me. Either record inserted or not inserted. What is the meaning of a boolean? True or false. If record is inserted, this method will return true value. If record not inserted, this method will return false value. When we discuss core Java methods, at that time, people has a confusion. When to take boolean return type, when to take object return type, when to take string return type, when to take int return type. All those questions will be clarified in the projects. All right. Now, I'm taking public boolean save book. My method is a save book. How many values we are getting from the user in the form? 3 values: book ID, book name, book price. Now, values entering by the user in the HTML. HTML data coming to servlet. Servlet capturing the data. How servlet capturing the form data? How servlet capturing the form data? Request.get parameter. Now, finally, user given data came to servlet program. Now, servlet is communicating with the database. DAO communicating with the database. Come on, answer my question, guys. Please participate. DAO, from now onwards, you need to think like a developer. You need to think like a programmer. How? Programmers will work in the project in the real time. Same like that, you need to think and you need to write the programs. All right. Now, user entering the data in the HTML page. User submitting the button. HTML directly inserting in the database? No. HTML will send the data to servlet. How servlet will take the data from the form? Request.get parameter. After taking the data from the form, servlet inserting in the database directly? No. In the middle, one more class is available. Between the servlet and the database, there is a DAO class. What is a DAO? What is DAO? DAO stands for Data Access Object. What is the purpose of DAO? DAO classes are only responsible to communicate with the database. You should not write request.get parameter in the DAO. In the DAO, you need to write only database communication logic. But where is the data now? HTML data we captured in the servlet. Who has to insert the data into database? DAO. Now, servlet class should send the data to the DAO class. Are you guys getting my point? In the HTML, user entered the data. We need to capture that data from the HTML in the servlet. Servlet should give the data to DAO. DAO will send the data to database. How servlet will send the data to DAO? That is the question. How my servlet program will send the data to DAO? Simple. Now, inside the DAO, I'm writing a method. This method is responsible to insert the data. If a servlet call the method, by giving the data, then this method will insert the data to DAO. Are you guys getting my point, right? So here, servlet program should call the DAO method by passing the data as the input. So to take the data as the input, I am taking integer book ID, string book name, and a double book price. Are you guys getting my point? Can my method take 3 parameters? Can my method take parameters now? Yes. What is the purpose of taking parameters in the method? Now I will understand how much good you are in the core Java. Right? Am I teaching anything new? Just I am writing a method with a parameter with a return type. In the Java project classes, people are doing core Java, advanced Java in other institute. They are coming to my Java project. 1 month I will struggle to tell them how to write the methods. Because they will learn core Java, advanced Java. They know what is method, but they don't know how to write the method for which scenario, which method is required, when to take method parameter, when to take method return type, what parameter we need to take, what return type we need to take. Those people are not able to realize. 3 months project class became 4 months, 4 months project class became 6 months. The reason, they are not good in the logical thinking. Their faculties are not teaching how to separate DAO logic, how to separate servlet. They completed servlets, they completed JDBC. Servlet logic, JDBC logic, they will write in the single program, course completed. Best practices are not there. When they come for the project, they are not able to do it. That is the reason 3 months project course became 6 months in the last batches. First 1 month, time waste because of these methods only. What to take as a method parameter, what to take as a method return type, they are not able to understand. Now I am preparing the base. So tomorrow our project classes should be easy. The reason, all the fundamentals we are covering here only. Today you may struggle, you may not understand. Same thing we need to do for next 3-4 projects in the servlet. After developing 3-4 projects, tomorrow when it comes to the project class, I no need to tell you what parameter you need to take for method, what return type you need to take for the method, because you are learning that concept now only. Are you getting my point? If I want to complete the syllabus within the servlet, I can write the JDBC, click the button, record inserted, completed. But what is the use? No. Are you going to develop servlet JDBC in the single class? Never. Never. But in the Amirpet, faculties are completing advanced Java like that. Servlet, JDBC single class, button click, data inserted. After completion of servlet, they will come to Ashok IT for the real-time project. 1 month literally scolding because they don't know how to write the methods. So you need to habituate to the methods writing into multiple layers now only. Layered architecture I am trying to explain you. I did not keep the title MVC architecture, but we are following that already. So this architecture we can call it as MVC architecture, model, view, controller. Controller is nothing but our servlet, model nothing but our Pojo classes, view nothing but our JSP pages or HTML pages. We are trying to follow MVC, but I did not give the title for that. At the end, I will tell you, we know MVC architecture. From last 10 days, we are working on the MVC only. First, we need to understand practically, then we will see theoretical part. Are you clear, guys? Now, my servlet program should send the data to the DAO. So here, servlet will have a do post method. That servlet method should call the DAO method. When servlet is calling the DAO method, servlet should send the data to the DAO. Now here, in my DAO method, I'm writing a method with 3 parameters. What is the purpose of a method parameter? Why we need to take the method parameter? This method is expecting 3 inputs. This method is expecting 3 inputs because this method is responsible to insert the record into database. Which data it has to insert? Who is giving the data? Is it a hard-coded data? The data coming from the user? Data coming from the user. User entering the data in the HTML. From the HTML, we need to take the data in the servlet. Servlet should give the data to the DAO. DAO should give the data to database. Now, so in the servlet, we will write the logic to capture. Servlet should call the DAO method. When servlet is calling the DAO method, So DAO method is expecting 3 inputs of the method. Servlet should pass form data to the DAO class as a method parameter. Now I got the 3 fields data. If I have the data, can I write a query and can I insert? Yes or no? Can I write a query and can I insert that? Yes. Now tell me the logic. I have the data. I want to insert. I have the data. I want to insert. Come on. I need to get the connection. So connection, am I going to get physical connection or I want to get the logical connection? I want to get the logical connection. Tell me how to get the logical connection. Come on, guys. Connection factory dot get connection. Do I need to pass username, password? No. Why? Already connection pool is created. Connection is ready. I just need to get the connection. What is the return type of this method? Connection object it is going to give me. I'm writing throws exception. Okay. Now, if this method is going to give me connection object. All right, perfect. I have a method, save book method, which is getting the connection. Okay. So tomorrow I'm going to write one more method in the DAO, public boolean delete book method. Now I will take book ID as a parameter. Here also I'm going to get the connection. Here I'm getting the connection. Here I'm getting the connection. Like this, update the book, retrieve the book, save the book, delete the book. Multiple methods will be available in the DAO. Inside the DAO, only database operational methods will be available. Now, when I call the save book method, it will call connection factory dot get connection. Can you tell me what is happening when I call get connection method? What is happening when I call get connection method? It is loading the properties file data. It is creating the connection pool. It is returning the connection. One time connection pool is created. I got the connection. Again, I'm going to call delete book method. Again, what is happening? Again, it is calling get connection method. Again, it will load the property file. Again, it will create the connection pool. It will give me the connection. Are we reusing the connections or we are recreating the connection pools? We are recreating the connection pool. It is recommended or not recommended? Not recommended. Why not recommended? Tomorrow, do you think that manager will tell you only one connection pool should be created? There should be a condition to create connection pool only one time. Will anybody tell you that in the project? That is your common sense. As a programmer, you should have a common sense. I have created a connection factory. I created a get connection method. When I call the get connection method, every time it is loading the properties file, every time it is creating the connection pool. Unnecessarily, we are creating several connection pools in the project. We are wasting the JVM's memory. We are wasting JVM's memory. Now, so here, when I call this get connection, it should create the connection pool or it should give me the connection from the created connection pool. Come on. It has to give me the connection from the existing connection pool. It should not create the new connection pool. Are you clear? So now our connection factory logic is correct or it is not recommended? Not recommended. Why it is not recommended? Every time it is creating a connection pool. Now tell me how to change this logic. How to change this logic now? Without static block, can I change this? Without static block, can I change this? If you apply your common sense, you will answer that. I don't want to go for static block, but there should be only one connection pool. If I call get connection method 10 times also, it has to give me the connection from the existing connection pool. I don't want to use the static block. Can I do with this method directly? Why? Suppose book DAO is there. Tomorrow I have 2 other DAOs also. Then today is only 1 DAO. Tomorrow I will get 5 DAOs. I will get 100 DAOs. Do you want me to write that in every DAO? No. No, in the same class, same method, I want to make a change. Think. Connection pool should be created only one time. Connection pool should be created only one time, not every time. Even if I call get connection method for 100 times also, connection pool should be created only one time. Simple. Khatam. How many times the connection pool will be created now? Only one time. Why only one time it will create now? First time, my class, I'm going to call this method. When I call this method, what is the data source value? Null value. If ds is equal to null, then what will happen? Logic will be executed. Connection pool will be created. Data source object will be initialized with the data source. Next time when I call get connection, condition will satisfy or condition will not satisfy? Will not satisfy. Then what it will do? Directly return the connection. Static block is required? No. How many times memory will be allocated for this variable? How many times memory will be allocated for this variable? Only one time. When? When the class is loaded. Why memory will be allocated only one time? Because it is a static variable. For static variables, memory will be allocated only one time. Now observe. Book DAO. I'm calling connection factory.get connection. It will go to that method. It will check DS. Initially, what is the DS value? Null. Condition satisfied or condition not satisfied? Satisfied. If the condition satisfied, load the data from the properties file and create the connection pool. Store the data source object into DS variable and return connection object. It returned the connection object when I call first time. Now I'm going to call this delete book method. Then again it is calling get connection method. It will go to that method. It will check the condition. DS is null or DS is not null? Not null, because earlier only data source object initialized. So condition will not satisfy. If condition is not satisfied, this logic will execute or will not execute? Will not execute. Then what it will do? Directly it is going to return the existing connection from the connection pool. We learned if condition in the core Java. We learned static variables in the core Java, but we don't know where to use them. I told you connection pool should be created only one time. So this logic will satisfy my requirement. This logic will satisfy my requirement or not? Anybody not able to understand? Anybody not able to understand? Clear, guys? Why I am writing if condition? To check whether connection pool is already created or not. If connection pool is already created, then it will not create again. All right. Book DAO is available. Now I don't need this method. Leave it. Just to explain you that I have written that method. Yeah, here I have save book. Connection factory.get connection. It is going to get the connection from the connection pool. Once I got the connection, I want to insert a record. Okay. For that, I need to prepare a insert query. Can you tell me that query? Private static final string insert SQL. Insert SQL. Tell me the query. Insert into books values. I'm going to take positional parameters because every time data will be changing. Data will be coming from the UI. It is a dynamic data. So recommended to go for prepared statement with positional parameters. What is the purpose of positional parameters? Positional parameters are used to supply dynamic values. All right. So my query is ready. My connection is ready. What is the next step? What is the next step? I need to execute the query. How to execute that query? Con.prepare statement. For that, I need to pass my SQL query as a input. Okay. What is the return type of this method? This method is going to return prepared statement object. I will call it as a PSTMT. All right. Next one. Next one. I need to set the values for the prepared statement. How to set the values? PSTMT dot set in top 1 comma book ID. How I am getting the book ID? from the method parameters. Method is taking 3 values as input. Those 3 values it will insert into database table. So pstmt.setInt of 1 comma book ID, pstmt dot set string of 2 comma book name, pstmt dot set double, book price is a double value. So set double 3 comma book price. Okay, I'm taking this book price as a third parameter for prepare statement. Done. I'm setting the values for prepare statement object. After setting the values for prepare statement object, what is the next step? I need to execute the query. Select query or non-select query? Non-select query. So what should I do? pstmt dot execute update. What is the return type? Integer count. How many rows are affected? If count greater than 0, what is the meaning of that? If a count is greater than 0, what is the meaning of that? Come on guys, record is inserted. Can I say that? Return true. What is the meaning of return true? Record is inserted. Else, I will say return false value. If a record is inserted in the database, count will be 1. If a count is greater than 0, that means record inserted in the table. If this condition not satisfied means record is not inserted, return false value. This is my DAO logic. So now tell me, inside the book DAO, what logic is available? Only database logic is available. DAO classes will contain only persistence logic. Persistence nothing but database operation. Persistence logic nothing but database operation logic. My DAO class containing only persistence logic. So now if you want to insert the book record, you call the DAO method by giving data as input. DAO method will insert the record into table, will return true or false value. If this method is returning true, that means the record is inserted. If this method is returning false, that means the record is not inserted. Am I getting the physical connection? Am I getting the logical connection? Logical connection. Instead of writing this if else conditions, can I directly do like this? Let me comment it. Ternary operator also not required. Return count greater than 0. Return count greater than 0. What is the meaning of return count greater than 0? Earlier what we have written? If block else block we have written. Instead of writing like this, I'm writing this 4-5 lines of code, this equal to this single line. Okay, if a count is greater than 0, return true, else return false. So freshers will write like this, experienced people will write like this. That is the difference. Understand? Here if a count is greater than 0, I'm telling to return true, else I'm telling to return false. I'm writing return count greater than 0. It will check the condition. If a count is greater than 0, that will be true. If a count is not greater than 0, that will be false. Instead of writing 5 lines of code, can I write a single line? Able to understand? Yes. Now remove this. Remove this. Next one. Here we need to close the connection. Recommended to close. Even if you don't close also, what will happen? Even if you don't close also, what will happen? Pool manager is going to close that connection. Pool manager is going to close that connection. Con.close. Now unreachable code. After return statement, we should not write any line of code. This connection closing should be available before returning the value. Before returning the value. All right. Good. Look at this code, guys. I have created one class with a name called bookDAO. My bookDAO class contains save book method. My method is taking 3 parameters as input. I'm calling connection factory.get connection. With that connection, I'm creating prepare statement. Prepare statement is having 3 positional parameters. I'm setting the value for positional parameter based on the index. Then I'm executing that query. I'm closing the connection. If the record is inserted successfully, count will be 1. Then I'm returning true. If the count is not greater than 0, it will return false value. Anything new or already we discussed in JDBC? Already we discussed in the JDBC. But the problem is in the JDBC, the logic we implemented in the main method. Everything we have written in the main method. But today we are not writing any main method. We are writing the JDBC logic in the separate class, separate method. That is the only difference. Any new thing in the coding? No, just best practices we are following. DAO class I have created. Inside the DAO class, I'm writing my JDBC logic. Are you clear, guys? Tomorrow, if you go for a Hibernate, these things also not required. Just with one line, we can insert the record into database. If you come to Spring Data JPA, that one line also not required. That is the advance, right? Fine. Yes, if you go for Hibernate, with a single line, you can insert the data. If you go for Spring Data JPA, that single line is also not required. It will do that automatically. Perfect. Are you clear with this DAO method? Are you clear with the DAO? Yeah, perfect. So with this, connection factory is completed. DAO also completed. What is the next step now? We need to create the servlet. Let's go here. Servlet should be created in the separate package or in the same package. Separate, because the purpose of DAO is different. The purpose of servlet is different. Package also should be different. Let me create one more package. This thing I created outside. Okay. Yeah, let me create one more package. Servlet in dot ashokit dot book servlet. Package name should be just servlet. Yeah. Now let me create a class, new class. Let me go for a class with a name called book servlet. All right. So now I want to map this class to URL pattern. Web.xml or annotation? Annotation. So fine. What is the annotation? Web servlet. Let me go for book servlet. I'm giving the URL pattern as a book servlet. Next, I need to write a method to handle form request. Form is sending get request. Form is sending post request. Okay. How to handle post request in the servlet? By using, are you sure? What is the difference between get request and post request? Get request will append the form data in the URL. Post request will send the data in the request body. Get request will append the form data to the URL. Post request will send the data to the server in the request body. Now, do you understand why we discussed HTTP request structure? If I don't explain request structure, can you understand what is body, what is URL? No. HTTP is mandatory to develop the web applications because HTTP is acting as a mediator between the client and server. All right. So book servlet, I want to override the method. First, I need to make this class as a servlet. So how many ways we can make our class as a servlet? 3 ways. By implementing servlet interface, by extending generic servlet, by extending HTTP servlet. I want to go for third approach. Come on fast. Extends HTTP servlet. Right. I want to override the method. Beauty of the IDE, control space, check it which method you want. Do post method, select it. It is giving the syntax also. All right. With the control space, I'm giving the syntax also. If you don't want to use it, then public void, then do post. What is the parameter? HTTP servlet request comma HTTP servlet response. All right. I have created my do post method. Now tell me what logic I need to write inside the servlet. We will create it later. Assume that form variables. For a developer, imagination is important. Okay. You need to imagine that these are the fields will be available in the form. Based on that, we need to write the logic. I told you, as a developer, always will start from back to front. With the imagination, we need to write the code. Without servlet, how I create a DAO? I have imagined that in future, my servlet will call the DAO method with 3 inputs. That imagination is, that is called planning. For a developer, that planning is required. Got it? Yeah. Now tell me, what is the logic I need to write inside the servlet? I need to capture the form data, then give the data to DAO method, then send the response to client. Are you clear? Yes. So 3 steps, 3 logics I need to write here in the servlet. Capture form data and call DAO method by giving form data. By giving form data, send a response to client. Now I'm habituated to this keyboard, man. It is really good. First day I got some problems. Perfect. Yeah. So what is the logic that I need to write inside this method? First, I need to capture form data. From request, the form data will come into the request object. From the request object, I need to capture that form data. How to capture that? Request dot get parameter. I need to capture the form data from the request object. Now, capturing the form data is only our project requirement. It is every project requirement. Every project requirement. Request that get parameter, request that get parameter. Now, assume that my form is having 100 fields. My form is having 100 fields. You want to apply for a passport. They will ask a lot of data. Your education detail, your family detail, your father detail, mother detail, your college details, address detail, your references. 100 fields will be available. If 100 fields available in the form, then what we need to do? 100 times you need to write the request dot get parameter. To overcome these problems in the servlet, Spring framework came into picture. In the Spring framework, you no need to write the logic to capture form data. It will give you data directly. Are you getting my point? That is the advance. Now do you realize that will anybody develop the project with servlet and JDBC? Because lot of code we need to write. In the DAO method, how many lines of code I am writing? 6 to 7 lines just to insert one record into one table. I have 1000 tables. 1000 into 7. How many lines? 7000 lines I need to write just to insert the data. Now I have a form. 100 fields are available. Like that, I have 1000 forms. How many lines of code is required to capture form data? Your days are gone. You will spend 1 month of time to capture form data, 1 month of time to write the JDBC logic. Will client will wait? No. That's why frameworks came into market. If you go for the Spring framework, you no need to write the logic to capture form data. You no need to write the JDBC logic to insert into database. Whatever the 20 lines of code we are writing today, Spring framework will replace all these lines with single line of code. If you develop a form by using Spring framework, if you click the button, Spring will capture form data, will give you form data in the form of an object. You give that object to the Hibernate, Hibernate will insert into database. With 2 lines of code, our project will be completed. So that is what industry is expecting, not JDBC and servlet. But directly we can't understand that Spring and Hibernate. This is the base. So don't spend much time on these servlets and JDBC. One, you just need to have the idea. Based on this idea, we need to focus on the frameworks part. From this 20th, frameworks are going to start for you. Got it? First Hibernate, then Spring, Spring Boot, microservices and project. That is the last stage. What is there in the Adv Java, man? I'm feeling bored with this Adv Java. All right, fine. So we are able to write the DAO logic and we are able to write the servlet. What is the responsibility of my servlet now? Capture the form data, call the DAO method and send the response to client. Now assume that form fields, book ID, book name, book price. Imagine that and Write the logic. Tell me the code to capture form data. Come on, guys. Request.get parameter or response.get parameter? Request.get parameter. Why not response.get parameter? Form data coming in the request. We need to send that response. So we need to take the data coming in the request. So tell me, what is the code? Request.get parameter of. What we need to do? Assume that we are getting book ID. Let us store that book ID into a variable string ID. Okay. Everything which is a transferring from front end to back end will be represented in the form of string only. Request.get parameter of book ID. I'm getting that ID. What is the data type? String. But actually ID means number. But our server don't know whether it is a number, whether it is a decimal. Server will understand everything as group of characters only. So everything which is coming from the form will be in the form of string only. If you want to represent as a number, you convert into number. That is your logic, right? I got the book ID. Similarly, I want the name. String name is equal to request dot get parameter of book name. That is the key in the form. Okay, form is not yet developed. We will develop that. Book name. Next one, string price is equal to request dot get parameter of book price. Book price. Perfect. Okay, good. I captured the form data. What is the next step now? What is the next step now? Servlet is talking to database, or servlet should talk to DAO? Servlet should talk to DAO. DAO should talk to database. How one class can talk to another class in the Java? By extending the properties or by creating the object. I need to create the object and I need to call the method. We discussed in the OOPS concepts. What is class? What is object? Now, servlet class should call the DAO class method. Create the object. Book DAO. DAO is equal to new book DAO. Book DAO. DAO is equal to new book DAO. All right. Fine. Now I need to call the method DAO dot save book. What it is expecting? ID, name, and price. ID is available in the string format. It is expecting in the integer format. Name in the string. That also expecting in the string. Price in the string. It is expecting in the double format. So what should I need to do now? What I need to do now? I need to convert. I need to convert. So how to convert it? String book ID is equal to integer dot parseInt of ID. Integer dot parseInt of integer. Integer book ID is equal to integer dot parseInt of ID. Do I need to convert the name? Name is available in the string. DAO also expecting in the string. No need of any conversion. Price. Price available in the string. I want in the double. Double book price is equal to double book price is equal to double dot parse double of price. I got it. Now I'm calling DAO method. DAO method expecting any data or it is not expecting any data? It is expecting data because DAO don't know what data it has to insert. We need to tell to DAO, hey boss, take this data, you insert that data. I need to call the DAO method and I need to pass that data. Okay, here book ID, which is representing in the integer, name is available, book price is available, which we have converted. I'm calling this logic. DAO dot save book of book ID, book name, and book price. What is the return type of this method? What is the return type of the DAO method? Boolean. What is that Boolean will represent? What is that Boolean will represent? True or false value. Okay, I'm going to take it as Boolean true or Boolean flag or Boolean status. Boolean status. If status is true, then what should we do? We need to send the response to the client as a success response. If Boolean status is false, we need to send error response saying that your record is not inserted. So can we write that logic now? Sending the response to the client. Send the response to the client. In order to send the response to the client, I need print writer. Response dot get writer. What it is giving me? It is giving me print writer object. Print writer object. I got the print writer object. With this print writer object, I need to send the response to the client. Okay. So a static response or a dynamic response? Dynamic response. Tell me how to send the dynamic response to the client. Come on, guys. First, if status is true, then some value. If status is false, then some value. So here I will take string response is equal to some null value. If status is true, then I will take response is equal to record inserted. Record inserted. Else response is equal to record not inserted. Record failed. Insertion failed. I'm saying that insertion failed. Good. With the status, I'm telling that when to send record inserted, when to send insertion failed. Now I have my print writer object. I have my print writer object. Using this print writer object, can I send this response to the client? Print writer dot append response. Append response. Completed. Yeah. So here we are getting some exceptions. DAV method is throwing some exception. GetWriter method is throwing some exception. Can we keep all this logic in the try catch blocks? Yes or no? So what is the purpose of try block? Whatever the code which may give the exception in the future, that code, the risky code, we need to keep in the try block. So let me keep this logic inside the try block, complete logic in the try block. Here I am writing a catch block, exception E. Now I am going to do E dot print stack trace. Now here, let me capture form data, call the DAO method, send the response to the client. Complete logic I'm taking out, and I'm going to keep that logic inside the try block. Perfect. Import that. Yes. Now, are we able to satisfy this diagram? Now let's observe. First, I have created a project and I configured properties in the properties file. The reason is we should not hard code the properties in the Java class. Today, my password is this. Tomorrow, password may modify. When the password is modified, do I need to change the Java program? In this scenario, do I need to change the Java program if the password is modified? So changing the Java program is not required when the password is modified, because I have separated my properties and my Java code by using properties file. Now I have created connection factory class. What is the purpose of this connection factory class? What is the purpose of this connection factory class? This connection factory class is used to get the connection. So is it going to create the connection pool every time? Connection pool will be created only for first time. Whenever you call get connection for first time, then only connection pool will be created. Otherwise, if the connection pool is already created, it is going to return the existing connection. Here, if you observe, instead of writing the 2 lines, can I convert these 2 lines into single line? Directly. So here I'm calling the method. What that method is doing, returning one object. Directly I'm returning that object. Instead of that, can I directly do like this? Return ds.getConnection. So what it will do? It will call that method, return the value directly. I'm optimizing the code. I'm optimizing that code. So return ds.getConnection. Okay. If the ds object is null, it will prepare the connection pool and it will return the connection. If the ds object is not null, directly it will return the connection. Then I have created my DAO. DAO method is taking 3 inputs. It is taking 3 inputs and it is getting the connection. It is inserting the record. Once the record is inserted, this method is returning true or false value. True means record is inserted, false means record not inserted. And I have servlet class. Inside the servlet, I am overriding do post method. What is the purpose of do post method? What is the purpose of do post method? Do post method is used to take the post request. It is used to handle the post request. Now request.get parameter, it is capturing the form data. In the form, 3 fields will be available. So I'm capturing the form data. Then book ID coming in the string value converted to integer. Price coming in the string value converted to double. This logic is used to capture the form data. After capturing the form data, I'm calling the DAO method because servlet is capturing the form data. Servlet is giving the data to the DAO. DAO is going to insert into database. After inserting the data into database, DAO returning true or false value. If it is true, my response should be record inserted. If it is false, my response should be insertion failed. How to send the response to the client? By using print writer. I created a print writer object, print writer.append response. If it is true, this will be the response. If it is false, this will be the response. So this is my servlet. Got it? Connection factory, DAO, servlet. Servlet is calling DAO, DAO calling connection factory, getting the connection, inserting into database. Next, what is the next step? Web page is required. As of now, we have done the backend logic. So capturing the form data, inserting the data into database, that part is completed. Now we need to develop a presentation. That presentation logic we can develop by using HTML or we can develop by using JSP. Let me go with the HTML. Yeah, where to create the HTML files? Where to create HTML files? Main, web content, web app. Yeah, in the web app, I'm going to create a new HTML file. So this file name I am giving as index.html. Okay. So here I need to write a form. How to write a form? Form action and method. What is the purpose of action attribute and method attribute? Action is used to specify which servlet should be called. Action is equal to URL pattern of the servlet. What is the URL pattern of the servlet? Book servlet. Do you want to send a get request? You want to send a post request? We want to send a post request. Method is equal to post. What is the advantage of sending a post request? What is the advantage of sending a post request? Come on. It is going to send the form data in the body. I need 3 fields. Book ID, text field, input type is equal to some number or text. Input type is equal to number, name is equal to key. What is the key we are giving in the servlet? My form key should be book ID. So similar to this, I need 2 other fields also, book name and book price. Book name, it is a text value and the name is equal to book name. This is book price and input type is equal to some text, name is equal to book price. 3 fields will be displayed and I need a button, submit button, right? Input type is equal to submit, value is equal to submit. Value is equal to submit. Let me give you a break tags here to display every field in the next line. Break tag, break tag, break tag. That's it. This is our presentation logic. Form action is equal to book servlet, method is equal to post. So whenever you click on submit button, this servlet will be called. And here from the web, from the browser, we are sending post request to the server. Method is equal to post. Whatever the form data we are entering, that form data will go to the servlet in the request body. Servlet is capturing the data from the request by using request.get parameter. Whatever the data we have received, we are converting from one data type to another data type. And we are calling DAO method with the form data. DAO will insert the data, will return the status. Based on the status, my servlet is sending success response or failure response to the browser. So is our project ready? Yes. Now refresh. Database is not there, sir. Warning is serial version UID. We discussed in the serialization, right? Yeah, that we can ignore that, no problem. Anybody not able to understand this coding, guys? Anybody not able to understand the coding that we have done today? How many classes I have created? How many Java classes I have created? 3 Java classes I have created. One is HTML is a Java class. Huh? How many Java classes I have created? First one is book servlet.java and bookdao.java and connectionfactory.java. Connectionfactory.java to handle connection pool, bookdao class to handle DB operations, servlet.java to handle request and response, index.html to display form display logic with a button, form display with the button, form display with the presentation logic. Simply I can say presentation logic. Here bookdao, simply I can say persistence logic. Simply I can say persistence logic. What is the meaning of persistence logic? Handling the database operations is called as persistence logic. Anybody not able to understand the coding? Anybody feels that it is difficult? Online students, anybody? Are you feeling that this code is difficult? Flag is just a variable. Flag, whatever flag is nothing but flag is a variable. You can take this either status or anything. Just DAO method returning the boolean value. That boolean value I'm storing into a variable. I can take that variable name as a status, or I can take it as a flag also. It is just, it will represent true or false value. That's it. You can take any name for that. Now guys, we discussed about debugging technique. Now that debugging technique will help you to understand how this code is executing. So to understand the project execution in this scenario, where we need to keep the breakpoint, where we need to start our debugging now? Inside the servlet. Our breakpoint should be available inside the servlet. So here we need to keep the breakpoint in the servlet. Then we need to run the project, or we need to debug the project? Debug. How? Right click, debug as debug on server. Earlier we used run as Java application, debug as Java application. Today what we need to do? Debug as debug on server. Why we need to go for debugging? To understand how that code is working internally, and to understand execution flow of the program. Now let me click on, first let me refresh the project. Guys, I have seen some people in the IDE, they are unchecking this checkbox, build automatically. When you uncheck this checkbox, build automatically, your code will not be compiled by default. In the IDE, whatever the code you are writing, it is compiling by default, right? Some people saying that, sir, my changes are not reflecting. When I observe, their build automatically option is not selected. Build automatically, if you select, whatever the code you type, immediately it will compile by the IDE. Are you getting my point? Yes. Save this file, project, refresh the project. If you want, you can clean the project also. Project clean also you can do. Perfect. Next, right click, debug as debug on server. Tomcat server, book web app remove, book project is available. Click on finish. Yeah, I'm deploying the book project in the server. Yes, my web page is opened. Book ID, book name, and book price. Enter some value, book name, some Ruby on Rails, price, something like this. Click on submit. When I click on submit, my code is executing, or it is waiting for the execution. Waiting for the execution. Why it is waiting for that execution? Because there is a breakpoint. Now I want to go for next. You need to check it. Really form data is coming or not. Let me click on F6. Next line, ID. Am I able to receive the form data? Am I able to receive the form data? ID is coming. One is displaying. Then go to next line, F6. Name is coming or not? Ruby, that is coming. Ruby and Rails. Then price. I got 345. So now converting that data, book ID, book price, creating DAV object. Now here I'm calling DAV method. How to go inside that method? How to go inside that method? F5. I entered inside this method. What I am doing here? Servlet is calling DAV method, DAV calling connection factory method. Can I go inside that method also? How? F5. Now what I am checking here? DS. What is the DS value? Null. Next line. What I am doing now? File input stream failed. Exception directly. What is the exception now? File not found exception. So are we able to understand where our code is failing? So if you don't debug this, can you understand? No. Here, whenever I created file input stream object in the connection factory, when I give this file name, it is not able to load that file. Maybe the file is available in a different folder. Okay, project is failed. Now, what is the exception we got? What is the exception we got, guys? File not found exception. When we will get the file not found exception? Server, my program is trying to load the file. File is not available. File I kept in the project folder, it is not able to locate it. Let me take this here. Let me keep in the Java folder. Okay, SRC main Java is available. I kept my file in the Java folder. Delete from the project folder. Refresh. Right click. Debug as debug on server. Select the server. Next and finish. Again. Form is loaded. Enter the data. Java price submit. Now my IDE is in the debug mode. Now again debug it. I want to go for next line. How? F6 ID 1 name Java price 100. Got it. Book ID I converted. Book price I converted. DAV object. I want to go inside that method. I want to understand how that method is executing. F5. Now here I'm calling another class method. Servlet is calling DAV, DAV calling connection factory. I want to go inside that method. How can I go inside that method? F5. Now, what is the value we are holding by DS? Null. If DS is equal to null, condition satisfied, then what it will do? It is trying to go inside the loop. Inside the if condition. What is this line is doing? File input stream is equal to new file input stream. What is the purpose of this line? What is the purpose of this line? To load the file. Now F6. Again it is failed. What is saying that? File not found exception. dbconfig.properties. Any name mistake? dbconfig.properties. Find new file. Here dbconfig.properties. Why it is not able to load it? Yep. I have deleted that. Java resources, main Java, DAO, util, connection factory, dbconfig.properties. 1 minute. New workspace, book project, SRC main Java, class, okay. Java in Ashok IT, DAO, util, SRC, book project, build classes. Got it, guys. The problem is the file is available outside of the classes folder. My class is available inside the classes folder. It is trying to load the file from the current folder where the dot class file is available. Now go inside the in Ashok IT, DAO, book.dao, util, connection factory dot class. It is trying to check for the file in this location. Is that file available in that location? File not available in that location. File not available in that location. Let me do one thing. Let me keep that file outside. It is available inside the Java folder. It is not able to load it. I will give the fully qualified name to load that file. Okay, I'm giving the fully qualified name to identify where that file is available. Fine, good. Now let me stop the server and let me do the debug once again. Clear. Right click, debug as, debug on server. Next, finish. Why? Fine. Okay, book ID, book name, book price, submit. Next, F6, F6, F6. Go inside directly, DAO method. From inside this, I'm going into connection method, F6. Yeah, done. So with this, we are able to resolve that problem. What was the problem we are facing earlier? We are facing file not found. So whatever the file name we have given, it is checking in the current directory. The file is available in a different directory. So I have given fully qualified name for the file path. Exact path I have given, then it is able to load that file. Once the file is loaded by using file input stream, I'm using properties. What is the purpose of this properties? To load the properties from the file into properties class p.load. Earlier in the P, is there any data? What is this curly braces empty? Properties class is empty. Properties class object is empty. See here, I'm keeping my cursor on the P. Properties class is empty. I'm calling p.load method. When I click on p.load method, see the properties object. Data is loaded into properties object or not? Data is loaded. What is the purpose of p.get property? To load the properties data based on the key URL. Am I able to get the database URL? Yes. Next one, username. Am I able to get the username? Next, password. Yes, I'm getting the password. Suppose if you are not able to read that file data, you need to debug this code line by line and you need to see which data is not coming. Then you need to understand that problem, fix the problem. So with this, I'm able to load the properties file and I'm able to read the data from the properties file also. Then I'm going to create connection pool. Hikari config. Config is equal to new Hikari config. Set username, set password, set URL, create the data source. Here my code will fail because in my system, database is not installed as of now. So when I execute this, it is going to give the exception, that is runtime exception, failed to get the driver instance for this URL. It is not, the database software is not installed. So tomorrow I will install the database and we will debug that program once again. Complete code should be executed. Record should be inserted into table. Are you able to understand this? Yeah, good. Yeah, I will check that. I will check it. I will test that. I will test that. Okay. Yes, fine, guys. Any questions, anyone? Can you guys develop this program and can you debug that? Anybody able to develop the code in this structure? Same? No? What you guys has done? हो गया. Good. How many of you not able to do? Can you raise your hand? Not able, no problem, man. We are learning. If you do something wrong, I'm not going to give any punishment. Today we will do it. Yes, perfect. Thank you. Please complete the project, guys. You have already taken the diagram. As per the diagram, I want you people to do that coding part. We'll see you in the tomorrow session. Bye.